Fifth grade reading scores are also noteworthy. In one class, they reached the 81st mean percentile, which is excellent. 81st percentile means that they are advanced, and this is, again, the class average. So that's really, really excellent, and that was after a 16-point jump from their fall assessments. School-wide in reading, the kindergarten mean jumped from 54th to 74th. The first grade class went from the 56th to the 71st percentile. The second grade class showed incredible growth in their number of proficient students, going from 24% to 26%, and that's those students that are proficient or above. And decline in T3 students, our Tier 3 students, our lowest achieving students. The number that they had in the fall was 7% of their class, and in the winter it was 4% of their class. Fourth grade jumped from the 58th percentile to an average of 65th, which is a great growth. And fifth grade overall jumped from the 70th percentile to the 77th percentile. This is excellent growth. This is the kind of thing that we want to see, especially when we've got a new reading program that we've installed, new techniques, new strategies. And to see that kind of growth across the building is really, really great. And that was just in reading. In math, kindergarten grew from the 51st to the 66th percentile, first grade from the 50th to the 70th, and that's the entire first grade, so well done there. Second grade grew from 44th to the 52nd, third grade grew from 71st to the 78th, and the fifth grade made enormous growth from the 61st percentile to the 78th percentile in math. Those numbers are excellent. Overall, the elementary team has done a tremendous job in moving their students across the spectrum from low achieving to high achieving. That's the kind of stuff that we would like to see. There are a few smaller groups that have a few things to work on, but our assessments, fortunately, the MAP test, which we've talked about at length in here, provide us with a variety of very specific ways in which to intervene with these students and enrich these students and help them grow academically. That process is underway. Each grade level experienced notable growth in either reading, math, or in most cases, both. We discuss this data every single month. Some classes we meet twice a month, the rest we meet monthly to monitor progress, to track students, and plan for specific interventions and enrichments to help these students grow. So bottom line, what this is telling me is what we are doing right now is working, and we'll continue to layer that on. I think that a big piece of the success that we're experiencing there is the fact that almost every teacher in the elementary is on their own time engaged in training that occurs from 4 to 6 every Wednesday night. I join them in that training, and we are learning the science of reading, the most cutting-edge techniques, the evidence-based practices and routines to help students grow as readers. And I think that specifically in reading, that has made a profound difference in what they're able to achieve. So I'm very happy about that. Those of you with students in the elementary, I hope that you're hearing your students talk about their MAP tests and their growth, because we make it a big deal in the elementary. And we are starting to see a shift changing from test apathy, where students just kind of rifle through a test and they actually sit down, they have their goals in mind that they have created with the teacher. That is happening K-5. They make their own goals and they are invested in trying to achieve those goals. There's always those margins that we continue to work on. We spend a great deal of time working with those students that need that extra help, but we also are shifting our focus to those students who are high achieving and need to be pushed even harder. And that is evidenced by, for the first time since I have been here, we have a classroom that is in that advanced rating, that 81st percentile. That is a huge benchmark. I'm hoping that I can continue to report on that kind of excellent growth in the future. So, huge kudos to the team. They're doing the things that need to be done, and they're making things happen, so I'm proud of them. Current projects, we just celebrated our 100th day of school. That's a big thing when you're in the elementary. It's a huge day. We had 100 paper clips, 100 Cheerios, 100 of everything hung on doors, and the kids all made their little crowns, and In the kindergarten, as a tradition, they always use this app on the phone to make the kids look 100 years older, and they are some of my favorite things to see. The kids have a great time with that, mixing in a little technology into their art. It's very fun. We did celebrate Leap Day. We talked about goals on that. Where are you going to be the next time we have a leap year? And made a big deal out of that because getting kids to think long term helps develop that frontal lobe, helps them think about the fact that everything that they do in life has a result, has in some cases a consequence, in some cases a benefit, hopefully more for the benefit side, but that we're all growing and we get better day by day. So we looped that all into Leap Day and made it a special holiday for us. We are getting our ducks in a row for the spring state assessments. We are switching this year at Whitehall from the SBAC to the MAST, Montana Aligned Standards Through Year Assessment. Now, you can all get Montana aligned to the standards. That's easy. What does through year mean? Right now, and for the past several years, we've been taking the SBAC, okay? And that is it's a 2-week block in the spring where we assess students on everything that they have learned throughout the year. The MAST is a little bit different. This is a through year assessment, which means that you take portions of this test throughout the year. And the first window opens up in October. That's not going to affect us this year, obviously, because we are just going to take the spring portion of it, and then it will roll into next year. We will be doing assessments throughout the year so that we are testing students on what they have just learned. It's customizable. So what we could encounter, and we've seen this in map tests, is if we test on a certain subject that hasn't in September, that isn't covered until October, or in January, which the topic isn't covered until February, then the results don't give us a really accurate assessment of how well the students are learning. The MAST is designed to be customizable to the class, and they have to take certain assessments, and so you can't change the test. What you can do is change the order in which you're teaching these things to a certain extent. So we should have a better picture of what the students have actually learned and retained, and we'll have it year long so that we can make course corrections instead of just we get to the end, we take this giant final assessment, and then find out that there were holes. Well, that could be that they did learn it, did master it, and then it's slipped their mind. Now we can see how much the students are retaining in real time. I'm excited about this. There's a great deal of training that has gone into it. We already sat through a training that, what was that, Mr. Slater, 6 hours? I think we spent.
You like it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was engaging. This is good stuff, and the assessment results are going to be peer reviewed nationwide at a national level, which is something that the SBAC does not offer at this time. So. To have it, the fact that it is being peer reviewed means that these results, this data, is going to be more evidence-based and more applicable to us, and we'll be able to have a more accurate picture of how our students are doing on the national stage. But what I really like about it is the fact that if we find that there are holes, we can correct them in real time instead of we find what holes we had in our instruction all the way down at the end of May, early June, and then we're like, well, dang it, the year is over. We can't do anything about it. So I'm excited about this. We'll keep you updated on where we're at, but there is a lot of prep work that's still in the process, and we'll keep you updated as things move forward with that. And that's just for 3rd through 5th grade. Continuing to work on accreditation materials. Those are submitted at the end of the month. This is a massive undertaking, and I'm thankful that Mrs. Nieskins is going to be doing all of the legwork. We're just supplying her the data. So thank you for that. This is the system has changed a bit, but by the time we have our next meeting, we will be done with that.
The system doesn't save is the main flaw. You have to submit it all at once, and there's 19 pages of information with all this uploads, and they have told us it doesn't save. So be prepared to do it in one sitting, which is alarming because if you refresh or something happens, you just lose everything. Yeah.
So the coordination has been key. We have to get all of the stuff and have it ready to go many days before it's due so that we don't fall into. Yes. We are finalizing kindergarten roundup. I had hoped today that I could announce a date publicly. I can't do that yet. I think that I'm positive that this will be able to be set by the end of the week. It will be widely publicized. We'll put it on Facebook. I have in the past, and this has worked, send it out on Infinite Campus because a lot of the children in my building have kids that are about to be kindergarten or TK age. And we'll have signups around town and at all of the local daycare providers. We have a date that we think is going to work, but I'm waiting on one more confirmation to make sure that all of the stakeholders who need to be at the kindergarten roundup will be there. March is a critical month academically. We have to continue to use the information that we gained from our winter map assessments to get students ready for state testing. And more importantly, and this is the key, to make sure that they're reaching all of the standards for each grade level. We're just a little bit, almost to 3/4 of the way through our year, and we should be 3/4 the way through our standards as well. Those monthly grade level meetings that we have on a regular basis are critical to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our students. So that's coming up. And we'll also start working on next year's schedule and any revisions to the handbook. Those are in the next 6 weeks, are going to be a major area of focus. That is what's going on in the elementary. Any questions? All right, AD report is a little bit lengthy tonight. I'll try to get through it as quickly as I can. First, general information. The scheduling meeting was held today. Mr. Vile and I will be working on getting those schedules typed up and for football, volleyball, and basketball for high school and middle school. We'll have a rough outline of what wrestling will look like, but those confirmations won't come until the fall, and the same will be true of cross country. The track schedule gets built over the next several weeks based on who is going to host. If there's any changes, we'll have a rough schedule on the website by the end of the week, but it will be rough, and I'll make sure that that is properly noted. Yeah.
Or more of a comment. So next year in your scheduling, like this year, it was senior night for wrestlers, and we were at Lone Peak for basketball. If there's any way we can try not to double schedule a game when it's senior night for wrestlers, just so they can have more support.
That is a spectacular consideration. We'll make sure that that happens.
Okay.
I'll speak with Mr. Vile on that, and because we can schedule that senior night wrestling. We have a lot of flexibility on that.
Great.
The other thing that I've asked him is to not have away volleyball games during board meeting nights. There's too, like.
Oh, yeah.
And I can tell you that
James.
has not occurred.
Yeah, so so that will be fixed next year as well.
Yep. Thank you for that suggestion. That is very important. We'll get her done. Track and golf start on Monday for high school. Middle school will follow at the end, last Monday of March will be their start date. Track has 25 athletes interested in participating. Those are the people that showed up at the interest meeting. And it has come to my attention that in the past, athletes have been allowed to join the team, practice, but not compete. Coach Walter is putting an end to that. I feared that this would affect our numbers because we've typically been in the high 20s, low 30s, but it is absolutely unacceptable to have kids be on the team and not participate at any meets. And so Coach Walter came up and talked to me about this, and she and I completely agreed that that is unacceptable. Fortunately, it did not lower the number too much. 25 is a good place to start. We would really like to see it or be around that 30 number, and I think that there's a possibility there, because when she had her organizational meeting, there were a few kids that didn't show up for various reasons that she thinks are going to come out. It was encouraging to see those numbers. I think those are strong numbers, and we'll continue to recruit and grow from there throughout the rest of this week. Golf is having their organizational meeting tomorrow. and Coach Leary is optimistic for numbers there, but we don't have any raw numbers at this time. Co-op concerns. This is a lengthy part. I want to acquaint everybody on the record what has been occurring pertaining to our co-op with Harrison. Mr. Reif and I attended Harrison's last board meeting after we had found out through the grapevine that Harrison was desirous to exit our golf co-op. This information came to us on a Friday, and the meeting was going to be held on a Monday, on the next Monday, where an agenda item was, an action item was to remove themselves from the co-op that we still have 2 years remaining on. At that meeting, Mr. Reif and I expressed our concerns over Harrison leaving the co-op. After hearing us out, they voted 3-0 to stay in the co-op. At that meeting, some of the points that were brought up, I expressed how concerned it made us, Whitehall, for not only golf, but also for our other co-opted sports, football, volleyball, wrestling, girls basketball, and of course golf. I emphasized how this relationship needs to be mutually respectful because we were not notified that this was going to happen until just 3 days prior to the meeting occurring. After we attended the meeting, I received an email on which Mrs. Neeskins was CC'd that stated they were planning to hold practices in Harrison to supply a coach and that they would drive their own athletes to meets. And then they also included this very important part, quote, Harrison would provide you more notice on intents to dissolve agreements so you can plan better and we can continue to have a positive relationship, end quote. I responded to this email and said they would have to practice with Whitehall under the guidance of our head coach, citing that any practice held outside of that purview would be an MHSA violation. I actually gave them the copy of the MHSA rule that stated as such. I have still not heard back from them on that February 20th email. There has been no response. Yesterday, it was brought to my attention that Harrison has conducted a poll of athletes in a community meeting to better understand if Harrison should keep their co-op with us, primarily in basketball, but volleyball was also considered. This information came to me secondhand, but I trust the source. Today, when I was at the scheduling meeting, the Harrison AD told the Sheridan AD that she was unsure if Harrison would have their own volleyball or basketball team next year. Underscore unsure. But that the Sheridan AD should pencil them in as they waited for something from MHSA or if Whitehall will let us leave the co-op. I was standing right there and I responded, Whitehall will not support that. And I also said to her, I heard you were going to have your own volleyball and basketball teams next year. That's the rumor that is circulating around. I'm curious, where will your boys play football? I then explained, Ennis would have to move to 11-man if you co-opt with them. I doubt they're going to want to do that. And Three Forks would have to bump up to Class A. I doubt that they're going to want to do that. Their AD responded, we aren't linking football to them, meaning volleyball and basketball. I said, they're linked. I don't speak for our board, but I think they are definitely linked. There was some reaction, but no words, and I left the conversation at that. At the end of the day, there is a push, whether it is underground, whether it is very public, I don't know, but there is a push in Harrison to pick and choose between which co-ops would best suit them without any regard to the fact that we are in a contract and that these co-ops are designed to be mutually beneficial for both schools. Where that movement is going to go, I don't know. I'm hoping that Harrison will reach out to us in the future, which it is clear, they promised that they would, and it is clear that they are not. Because this meeting evidently did take place, because there was the ask for games for volleyball to be penciled into a schedule pending a hearing here or through MHSA. I don't know which direction they're going to go. Although I absolutely told their AD today that we are not going to let them out and that the sports are linked, but that I didn't speak for the board. So that is the information that I know at this time. And expect there to be more conversations about this.
Yeah. The reason it's problematic is because of the fact that we are currently in agreements with them. So there are time limits of when those expire. So for them to pull out at a time before it's expired affects all of our programs and our hiring. For example, for golf, why this was problematic is we have 2 coaches lined up because we are anticipating, they told us to expect 5 golfers. So we hired 2 coaches and we are, setting ourselves up to include them. This has been the case with every sport. We have made efforts to, obviously staff for the amount of kids that we have. We do not charge them for coaches, just to clarify. We pay for the coaches, they get to participate. The only thing we ask them for reimbursement for is meals and lodging for their own athletes. That's it. That's the only thing their school reimburses us for. So we do collect an activity fee from their athletes, just like we do from our own, but that's every child. So they have a pretty sweet deal. So in order for them to break away, they would of course have to hire their own coaches. Their expenses presumably would increase. But I think the issue is the whole reason that we entered into these agreements was not to do them a solid and make it great for Harrison. It's because our sports teams are having difficulty competing against schools that have 300 kids. We wanted Harrison to join with our sports team so that we could be more competitive because we're a school of 135, 140 competing against schools that have 300 students in them in Class B. So in order to bolster our competitiveness with those schools, we needed additional students. So for them to pull out, we have lost total benefit of that mutually beneficial agreement. And there is a term on that agreement, and when it expires, if they don't wish to renew it, we accept that. At least that's how I feel. But to do that when we are currently in an agreement and our agreements have gone on for over a decade with some sports. And so I think for them to suddenly do this, it's a bitter pill to swallow because we have done them a service for many years at our cost. So it's tough for me that this is how we're being treated at this moment.
So what's the penalty for them if they want to? What is
The penalty is we don't allow them to participate in any of our sports, so they don't get to pick and choose. It's a package deal. It's all or nothing.
But if they just pull out?
Then they wouldn't have football or wrestling.
Okay.
Yep. They
Exact-
lose
at
their
this
ability
point-
to compete in those sports.
Exactly. There is no such thing as Harrison Golf.
Right.
It does not exist. If they hold a practice down
MHSA
there.
would say you're not a recognized team.
Yep.
Yeah.
If they try to hold a practice out there without the head coach, they are in direct actually, they are in direct violation of an MHSA rule.
Okay. So MHSA would levy whatever.
Yep, and that's up to them. But the bottom line is they cannot compete and wear the Trojan uniform. And there's no such thing as Harrison Golf. So they're not recognized.
As it currently stands, there's Whitehall Harrison Golf. So this is the most immediate sport where there could be a potential issue. And we've explained that for them to hold their own practices with their own coaches is an MHSA violation. And there was no reply on that information. It won't be our MHSA violation, but it's
Nope.
theirs, and they won't be allowed to compete. So I don't know, I guess, there's a lot of I don't think they have a good grasp of the 130-page MHSA rulebook. Yeah, it was 3 years.
Oh, it was 3.
And basketball has one more year.
Okay, so football and.
And football has one more
has
year.
one more year.
And
Yeah.
volleyball as well has a
And
year.
volleyball, yeah.
So we have not heard back as to whether or not they are wanting to co-op golf or not? Or
I
are
believe,
you-
they
what I
signed a
have
contract.
heard is from some parents who are asking, for the contact information of our head coach. which we have provided. And so and these parents are interested in bringing their kids down. So I think that there is still a plan, at least in those particular parents' minds,
Okay.
that this is what they're going to do. What happens higher up the food chain is anybody's guess at this point. We have heard nothing.
Okay.
So does each individual sport have its own contract?
Correct.
So if they, so if they withdraw from the golf contract.
They
early
can't
for-
unilaterally withdraw. Both boards have to vote to dissolve it.
Okay,
But our point is, in the spirit of why we did this, it's not to our advantage to do that.
right.
So we either hold them to everything or we let them out of it all. It's
Okay.
all or nothing.
So we dissolve all those
That's
contracts.
our leverage
and-
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was a per sport. I thought we just agreed to 3 different sports or 4 different sports, because basketball was never involved.
Well,
girls
girls
is.
is.
Boys wasn't. I'm just saying,
Each
I guess the way I
agreement,
understand it, okay, we got enough kids, we're gonna do it this way this year. That's what they're thinking, right?
That is very accurate.
Which,
Yeah, but
which
they
isn't,
signed a
which isn't,
contract.
which isn't right, right?
Because they signed last year a 3-year
No,
contract. with
I agree.
us.
yeah. It's, the issue is that the term exists and it's just not the correct way to go about things. And it's creating, stress between, and we don't really know what to anticipate even, so that this whole thing with golf happened with 3 weeks before the season starts. It's like, that's not, appropriate. So anyways, that's probably the entirety of the,
Yeah, yep.
and Jamie did attend the meeting with, Jamie's not here tonight, but he did attend the board meeting with Curtis. They both went on our behalf. There's another board meeting on the 11th of March, which is next Monday. So if anyone has interest in going, just don't make a quorum. But you definitely head there if you're interested.
Was there ever any indication as to the reasonings for wanting to solve it, really? Like, is it all, I mean, like, if they have
Yes.
students that are interested in golf, then,
They had someone move to their community who could coach golf, who
Okay.
had a golf simulator themselves. That's what we were told.
okay.
But again, no thought to mutual benefit there. Like maybe our
Right, I
kids would
just didn't know
benefit
what
from the
their-
golf
what-
simulator.
what
And their coach,
intention
perhaps.
was.
Yes, and we did invite them to have this person be a coach for us, an additional coach. But there was no interest seemingly in that. We did not receive a reply to that email where we said this person can help coach. Of course, I feel like our kids would benefit greatly from access to a golf simulator, but it doesn't, this is, again, going back to, I think the root of the problem, it's viewed as their benefit with no consideration of our benefit. We also seek benefit from this for the reasons I've already said.
All right.
Any
more
athletic questions?
Thanks, Curtis.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on, Mr. Slater.
All right, so every month I could start by saying it's a busy month. We did a lot of work last February. I want to start by just recognizing the awesome middle school festival that was hosted this week. I couldn't be more proud, I shouldn't say this week, today. At the end, they had a guest conductor from Missoula, and he almost choked up on how proud he was of the conduct and behavior of our kids. Besides their musical talents, the conduct and behavior of our kids. And it was so great to hear that. So they had 6 schools here today, all day. Mrs. Heilig did all of the planning, organizing. It was a team effort in that everybody from our maintenance people, Mr. Prevros, to the lunch crew, Jen and them, everybody working with our teachers too to accommodate. They practiced all day. They did more music, I guess, today, according to the conductor, than they probably have done in a couple months, just the time. So just huge praise for them, and the board in our town can be so proud when you have a guest. He travels the whole Northwest, and he literally took the thing that you conduct with, and I was like, I could not be more proud. So that was awesome. Last month, Curtis did a great job covering a whole bunch of stuff. I'll kind of get through this fairly quickly. Professional development, we do a lot of professional development in Whitehall, and that's great. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity for that, to have a school that believes in that. February 16th, we had a full day with staff With some staff input, our staff had requested some ACEs training. ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And one of the biggest takeaway is regardless of how many ACEs we have, we can be successful. So one ACE score could be your parents are divorced. Another ACE score could be death in the family. There's all these different things, and there's tests you can get online and take for yourself. But the staff want to become more educated in that, and also how do we work with that? Because we have a big segment of our community that is considerably at risk with challenges. So it was received very well, and I cannot believe how lucky we were on short notice. We got a professional from the University of Montana, Montana State Schools, that came down and did it, loved it. They paid for it. They're funded through the Phyllis Washington Foundation, and she's going to come back for the second half in April. This first part was really about how ACEs affects your brain, and one of the coolest things to hear, and it's true, your brain can be damaged from abuse and so many things, and one of the only things that can actually heal your brain is love, a loving adult. And that's one of the biggest things we want to prepare or provide for all of our kids, and having somebody from the outside just sharing that, and it really resonated with a lot of our staff. So that was great. We also spent some time reviewing our work with the Portrait of a Graduate. I really like the Portrait of a Graduate because that gives us kind of a shared thing for our community, our teachers, our school. Now we need to make it meaningful. What do these attributes look like in our school, in our hallways? How can we unite behind these things? So Mrs. Stephanie Lester guided some of those conversations about that. What do we take away and take back to our classrooms? Now in almost all the 612, you'll see a lot of the Portrait of the Graduates, just those little, you saw the graphic that was shared, and then we're looking at now how can we reinforce those in the classroom. Next thing to round off the day, our own local Mr. Anderson facilitated training on AI. I recently shared out an article on AI. AI is a topic that since last summer, just trying to read, learn, stay on top of, look at all the time. There's so much. Mr. Anderson did a great job. He went through some things from Jason Neifer. He's the executive director at University of Montana's Montana Digital Academy, and just sharing what are these tools? What are the tools that are out there? What are different considerations? And we had some good conversation, because really there's people there's quite a spectrum as we learn how these things affect us and how do we accommodate and adapt to them. So Colton did a great job in our staff readiness levels, obviously because we're people. There's a lot of different places as we're coming up to speed with all the AI stuff. Our next professional development, our instructional coach will be visiting March 11th through the 15th, completing coaching cycles, and we'll be assisting with some other professional development on that day too. Some more stuff for the Portrait of the Graduate. And then recently we're working with Rel Northwest, and I have some stuff over here. Curtis shared a lot about a lot of data with the map stuff. The other thing, I just met with Mr. McLean and Mrs. Berkram, and one thing we're doing with Mrs. Nolan as well is some short cycle assessment, and taking some of our kids, and the intervention we chose was close reading strategies. So that's when you look at it and you're pulling out context, really looking for words to link to what does this mean. And the sophomores and juniors increased by over 20%. We had a couple kids that were freshmen that didn't try, and you could see their first test, and then after learning more about close reading, the increase. And then Mr. McLean has done the same thing. He has the data that we'll be reviewing in later this month with Rel Northwest. So we're hoping to continue this work past the literacy grant. So the teachers have done a great job working on that, and it was good to link some data in addition to the map. That's some stuff that we were doing locally. FFA, so glad to have FFA, and recently we sent a group to Harleton. There was about a dozen kids that went up there. I think the main thing they competed in was ag mechanics. We had two teams, a senior team and a junior team. I think the highest scorer was actually Zane Downey. I believe he placed 8th out of about 60, so did really well. Our kids overall, I think the junior team may have outperformed the senior team. I think they performed in ag mechanics. In addition to that, they had FFA week, and it was cool. They cooked us breakfast. They brought cool little cupcakes. They did the boards up to promote FFA, and then they had an announcement every day about their organization. So it was cool just to see some school spirit about something besides sports with the band and the FFA. We've had a lot going on with our extracurriculars as well. Driver's education, any question about the FFA stuff at all? That's kind of like real broad highlights. I tell you what, right now they're working on some big stuff out there. So state's coming up. it's good. Student organizations are good. Driver's education started last night with parent meeting, thanks to Mr. Head. Teacher summative evaluations are in progress. Staff are starting to prepare for upcoming standardized assessment. In the high school, we will do the ACT again next year, and then in the 6-8, we'll be using that mass assessment that Mr. Koenig talked about earlier. One great thing, and it's different networks, and it's a small state, when Mrs. Nieskin signed us up to pilot this, we're in the second round of pilot for mass, and teachers, one thing that we don't have enough of in education or anything is time. Mass is supposed to be a lot faster, a lot more user-friendly, a lot better for the teachers. So Mr. Koenig did a great time getting into all the details. I really appreciate what I've heard from staff that have used it. It's more user-friendly. So that will make it more of a tool instead of an event. Upcoming stuff, school play, Friday and Saturday, the Cave Cat, some of these things too. I put out a weekly newsletter. It's out on our Facebook if you want to see that. Look at it every week. I forecast out a couple weeks. Track, we already went through our stuff there. Some academic Olympics, March 12th and 13th. We'll be sending a junior high team one day with Mrs. Roy's and Mrs. Worth, taking care of that, going to MSU. And then our next assembly will be ICAC. ICAC is for internet safety. There'll be a middle school and high school. We've done it in the past, talking about how kids can be safe on the internet. So we're looking forward to that. There's some other dates that I'll just leave on there. We do have, and I had the date wrong last time, March 21st is our incentive trip for the ACT to Discovery. That's the middle school and high school report. That was quite a bit. I think I was kind of quick, though. Do you have any questions?
You were quicker than me.
Lots going on. One thing we always want to work on continually, and I remember coming back from a conference one time and having a clerk that really, and I'm learning all the time, and she said, and I've been guilty of this, still sometimes I'll mess up, and she's like, you come back from a conference and you have all these change. She said, you know what's really novel? What doesn't change? What doesn't change? And the love and pride, the pride of our kids behaving well at that thing, that doesn't change, right? So I'm in a good place after watching that today, and I really appreciate our board, community, and school. Our kids, our parents, sometimes it's 5%, I'm telling you 95%, and we work together. Very lucky for the people we work with, so thank you.
Yes. Any more questions for Mr. Slater or any questions?
Can I interject, because it wasn't covered? We took 11 students to state competition for the Thespian Festival, February 16th and 17th. Tim went with me. These kids competed, they were the only B school. We were competing against AA and A schools. They did great. It was awesome. They took workshops throughout the day. We had a New York producer that had graduated from the University of Montana, had gone to Carnegie Mellon, came up to us after the kids performed and said, your kids aren't going to get recognized the way that they should because you're going against schools that are way bigger than you. Great Falls brought 42 kids.
Oh my goodness.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's,
How many did you bring this?
11. But at $60 a pop to go to a festival, that's our entire budget for like 2 years. You know, the fact that they brought 42 kids. This gentleman though, John Schaffner, he is a producer from 2.5 Men, The Ranch. He's done the Grammys, he's done Emmys. He handed us a envelope with $400 of it and said that he wanted to help support the Whitehall kids. And I don't think drama gets enough play in here.
And we had one student who received individual recognition, Lily
Yes.
Martin.
Yeah, Lily was called out for her delivery and the way that she did things. So I mean, the fact that, they went to state competition and competed against A and AA schools was pretty cool. And we hadn't been to festivals since 2009, so.
That's excellent. Well done, Liz.
That's okay.
Thanks for sharing that.
And taking, I mean, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
11
then
kids
the play
based
is-
on our size of school is, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so then the play is this Friday and Saturday too. And the drama kids are also helping with the Oscars party. And they're all, that's on Sunday at the Start Theater, and they're all totally committed to doing community theater during the summer too.
Oh, great.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, Miss Neeskins.
All right, so last board meeting, we discussed having our school attorney Via Kaleva come and do a boardsmanship training that is scheduled for 5:30 on April 2nd. Jeannie and I discussed that with the election, we will invite any candidates who are running for school board because we won't know the outcome of election. So anyone who's a candidate would be invited as well, so that everyone kind of is able to receive that who is interested in the position. So that's from 5:30 to 7 prior to the board meeting. And I'm personally excited to talk about these next three things because they are the culmination of a lot of time and years in some cases. So I have been talking about our new activity bus now for 2 years. Yeah, sometimes at one point I felt like I gave money to a scam organization and we weren't really gonna get it. But I'm happy to say it's arriving either Thursday afternoon or Friday morning. Yeah, of this week. And just to remind everyone, because it's been a while since we've actually talked about what it is, it's a 45-foot Ultra Coach Liner DXL with a Freightliner chassis. So it seats 57, but it has like the semi front, so it has all the modern buses, activity buses look like this, so we will now own one. It also has greater seating capacity than our current bus, which only has 48.
It looks like a Hornet.
Yeah. It looks like a what?
A Hornet.
No. I don't think so.
They do.
Okay. Well, anyways. Yes. So I am excited that it's coming. You know, it would have been nice to have during basketball season. There was times when we actually couldn't fit all of our kids on there because we had a C team. So we would have to take like another vehicle. That happened. So it's going to be nice to actually have this larger bus to accommodate our entire teams. But it is probably better to give it its maiden voyages in better weather. So you may remember our newest activity bus prior to this had some significant issues because of the location of the fuel pump, and it would freeze up when it was going down the road just because of cold. It wasn't a cold weather bus really, so this should not be the case with this bus, but it's probably best we test it in the spring. The next big project that is going to be off my agenda very soon too, and we will be able to have a grand opening, is the pre-K building. So we are just like almost there. So the water is turned on, there's a water meter, there's siding, there's a door, there's windows, the whole interior is finished. The only thing left is the inspection and the carpets need to get cleaned. That is it. It is otherwise ready to go. So that is super exciting. Yes, it was another 2-year process in the making. You may be wondering about landscaping. Don't worry. Remember, that's part of the grant money we have. We just cannot do it right now, obviously, with it being the weather that it is. So there's that big pile up topsoil, which we will spread. There's a big pile of gravel, which will get spread. The other thing that still needs to get finished, and it'll be done this week, is the fence around the property. There used to be a fence. It'll get put back up so we don't have children escaping into the bus alley, that kind of stuff. So it's just right there. It's so close to being done and something our community is really looking forward to.
Why do the carpets need to be done?
Because they've done drywall and all sorts
Oh,
of
they're
stuff.
not rolled up somewhere else?
No, it's carpet squares.
Oh, okay.
So it's partial linoleum and partial carpet squares, and just with the contractors in and out, they just need to clean the
Yeah.
carpets because of that. Yeah. All right, so that is exciting news, and when we can finally open that, Liz, I'll give you a date, and you can come take some pictures and let the community know too. The other exciting thing, and this is mostly exciting for Alyssa and I, probably not as exciting for you guys, but we have been working with the Department of Justice and the FBI for 4 to 6 months. I can't really say how, maybe 6 months now, on getting an actual fingerprint machine here at the school. And I really give kudos to Colton Anderson for his persevering through their process, because we've long talked about having our own fingerprint machine here at the school, because right now we have to send people to manually do fingerprints either in Butte or Boulder, and sometimes they have to pay for those, and it's kind of a hassle, and then we send them off to the Department of Justice, and it may be, 3 to 6 weeks before we have results back. With this machine, we will be able to instantaneously take digital fingerprints and get the report in real time. So this is huge for us. It greatly increases our capacity to actually staff quickly, because right now we have people that want to volunteer or get hired for positions, and there's such a long waiting period before they're actually cleared to work or to volunteer. So this will be a game changer for us. So it is exciting that we can do this. We are excited because the current process can be somewhat cumbersome and unwieldy. So also thank you to TSS for their help with that, because we had to design a network protocol where basically the machine is completely off our network. So there's just, it's directly line in, and this all has to do with security protocols for the encrypted data. They're actually not worried about what we're receiving. They're worried about someone hacking the system and changing their own information, like at the FBI level. So it was an interesting process. So that is good news, and that's something, of course, our insurance requires for everyone who volunteers or works with kids. I mean, that's state law, so this will make a lot of things very much easier for us. And then finally, I just want to touch a little bit more on driver's ed. Rodney asked me to share this. We have 19 students signed up for first session, and we do have enough for a second session. We currently have 16 for that. So he typically does anywhere between 30 to 40 students a year, and we have 35 signed up, so that's great.
That's excellent.
So watch out, got some new drivers.
All right, any questions for Ms. Neeskins? All right, moving on, old business, review athletics expenditures and revenue.
Okay. We've been doing this all year, so I think everyone knows the drill. So on your iPad there, you have the athletic cost breakdown. This includes all of the information from fall and winter to dates, of course. The only thing we do not have at this point is spring, which is golf and track. However, we do have final numbers on all of our sports as to what were expenses that were not so this is expenses beyond the revenue that we took in. So all revenue has been accounted for and deducted out of this final expense tally. So high school volleyball, the average involved athletes during the season was 20. The expenses were $5,408. So the actual cost per kid is $270. High school football, 33, $4,865. The actual cost per kid, $147, and so on. So cross country, actual cost per kid, $439. So even though we saved money on not running buses there, the problem is, we only have 6 kids, so the cost is higher per kid. Middle school fall sports, so this is volleyball and football. We have high participation there. The cost is $97.92 a kid, so just $7, $8 over where our activity fee is for the year, right? High school basketball, this is the only one that comes, or the one that really comes closest to breaking even for our high school, $92 a kid. Wrestling, $708 a kid. Middle school winter sports, $123 a kid. Cheer, $20.89 a kid.
Everybody should be insured.
Yeah. We would make money. Yes. So the reason this is important is because we have had discussions about the activity fee. So the activity fee is $90 per year. If kids do 3 seasons, we're getting $30 per sport. You can see the actual costs of each sport there. The only way we actually break even in high school is if someone's only in cheer and only in basketball. And then we're okay because we're actually able to pretty much break even with those costs. The other sports, we're double or triple or 7 times what we're actually getting as far as revenue. Now, does that mean we should have an exorbitant charge for wrestling and, less for basketball? No, that's not what I'm suggesting. But I am suggesting that we really do need to consider that solution that we discussed in August, which was a per season activity fee. Because right now, all we are collecting for the year is $16,000 in activity fees. We have $36,000 in costs so far, and we are only 2/3 of the way through the year. So the math doesn't work. Now, why are we in this position? I've explained previously, much of it has to do with inflation. So our costs for housing, like when we go on trips, especially, this is why wrestling has high costs, because they have a lot of trips that are overnight. So lodging, food and meals, and gas, and then busing. So all those costs have just increased significantly. The other thing too, you have to remember is bigger schools have more kids paying activity fees. So this also goes back to the co-op discussion that we just had. We do capture some revenue from, all of those athletes too. So the more students you have, you can see the effect that has on the program. Middle school fall sports, 50 kids, it's a $97 cost per kid. High school basketball, 41 kids, it's a $92 cost per kid. It's our smaller programs that are really hard for us to cover costs. Cross country, 6 kids, $439 a kid. Wrestling, 15 kids, $708 a kid. So the more kids you have, the more that cost is distributed, the more we can recapture it through activity fees. So I'm not asking for you to do any action tonight, because I want this to be kind of something that resonates with the community as well before we take action. But there was, a little bit of pushback when we increased the activity fees from 75 to 90. And now you all have, I promised you this data, you all have this in front of you, that every single sport, with the exception of cheer, costs us more than $90 a kid. So we're capturing that one time a year, and presumably kids are in multiple seasons. So it is something that I feel like we must rectify so we don't bankrupt our S account. I did warn you at the start of the year that we were 3 years out from that point, and now we're 2 years out. So I would like to rectify this in some fashion before we are completely, running in the red. So.
Also, when I ran this report, this was before we paid the credit card, so now the athletic account is down to 34,000. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Is there any way to preemptively evaluate if it would deter kids from participating? $90 for 3 sports versus $270. Are there some children
So the
that wouldn't
solutions,
participate?
I think that's a great point. I don't think you were here I don't think you were on our board when we discussed the solutions to
Okay.
this. So the solutions we discussed for this in the fall were, first of all, we do have what's called the William Miller Fund for Needy Kids, which was a trust that was put into place by a member of the community. This was decades ago. And we are able to, for kids that demonstrate need, waive their fee and utilize that money. The other piece of this, and this is something we want available to everyone, regardless of need, just because of the additional cost for families, is there are multiple platforms and multiple school districts doing this, including, is it Butte Central is our closest one? Oh, Three Forks. I think Butte Central was also doing
They
it.
do it as well.
Yeah, Butte High. So they have a platform where you can actually crowdfund for your activity fee per season. So they are charging per season activity fees, and it basically, you generate a list of 10 emails and 10 phone numbers of people, aunt, uncle, friend, neighbor, whoever, and it sends out an email and says, hey, this is the activity I'm in, here's my photo in my sports uniform, and I'd really love $10 from you to contribute to my participation in this. And they're having great success with this in Three Forks. We actually spoke to the company that does the platform for Three Forks, and they had raised $11,000 to offset for one season their activity fees, which would be 11,000 of 16,000, presumably. So I do believe that there is a mechanism for this using crowdfunding to help offset that. That doesn't answer the question of if we just charged outright, would that be prohibitive? We're looking for ways to avoid that, basically, so that kids aren't in that position at all.
Could you next year implement some of those things before
Yeah.
incur, oh, so you guys already covered all this stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. It does need to be a voted item by the school board. And so the reason I've been doing this education all year is because we didn't really have a great idea of like, what is this costing us? And being able to justify the community, why are we actually doing this? So,
Sorry, I don't know if I said that well. So I think you might have heard, putting in place the 3-season charge. What I was asking is if we've got the crowdfunding, we've got the will, whatever, trust fund, if we can start to leverage those next year and evaluate how many kids use it, how many kids are eligible for it, what impact does it have to the student athletes, use that as part of the criteria to make a decision on what's it going to mean to sports in year 3 or year 2 or whenever the decision happens. Just kind of another thing to kind of frame. Like, will this impact or prohibit kids in any way?
so I am aware of what our free and reduced lunch percentages are. Now, for high school, that's our lowest, and that's 41%. But presumably, all 41% of that would need assistance in some fashion if they're needing a free or reduced lunch. So that's kind of like an immediate metric that I can provide. We have also had hardship cases where we have used the William Miller that fall outside of those numbers. But if someone is free or reduced lunch eligible and says to us, I can't pay the activity fee, we've always waived it. So we do have kind of a metric of what that would look like as far as numbers and what we're doing now.
So presumably we would be doing the $90 that's currently the,
To get to a closer break-even point, it would have to be $90 per season.
per season.
Instead of $90 per year.
But we're thinking probably around that $90 range.
That's the number, when you crunch the numbers, that's the amount we would have to get close to breaking even. We would be a little short of breaking even. So it actually would need to be like 100, but I'm not saying we need to make drastic measures here. But yes, that would be 90. And the way the other schools have done this, like I said, is they have moved to the per season, but they have moved to this fundraise, this crowdfunding model. So really what it costs mom and dad is potentially zero. And of course, there's always, I think you were the one that brought this up, Robin, like, I don't want to do the fundraising. Can I just write the check?
That was me.
Absolutely. Like, we're not going to say.
I don't do that kind of stuff.
You have to fundraise. Like, it's not a requirement to fundraise. So if a kid doesn't want to fundraise and their parent wants to write the check, fine. Like, that's completely acceptable. Especially if you have multiple kids, you don't want to be hitting up the same person 3 or 4 times. So we get that.
And then you get some of the kids, if they say 10, they might get 20.
Right.
So it all will be offset.
Yeah, and I do think that schools give incentives for kids that raise more, like a acknowledgement or a prize or something like that. It's just a way to help people kind of use the power of many small gifts per,
$10 from Grandma and Grandpa is a lot different than.
correct. But it adds up and it helps you offset your fees.
So, I'd like to look at all the numbers differently. So I actually did an average of all of the expenses versus all the kids, and it's actually $180 based on this list per child. If you did, or per athlete, I guess, if you did that. So
Without spring season.
Without spring season. But if you're looking at that, there's a consideration that we do need to consider how much that activity fee is in order to make, in order to make that even out, correct? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, because you're not gonna make you're obviously not gonna make the wrestlers pay $700, or
Right.
Chad's not
Yeah,
gonna be okay
I
with
did.
that.
I did crunch the
Because the
numbers.
cheerleaders are only gonna have to pay 20, but
Well,
in all seriousness, on
can outvote
average
him.
right now, it's like $180 per athlete, which is actually twice as much as what we're
Yeah, but
Right.
we're getting
asking right now.
so that's $90
Just to be aware that, like,
Yes,
It's-
absolutely.
it's a lot.
It's actually 270 by the time the year is over with, because I can look at our expenses for track from last year and project that. So it truly is 90 per season, but then when you figure in, so we have a lot of other costs that aren't in this, like awards And, so like we have wrestling trophies that come out of this. And so it's truly like I said to you, like our depletion of the fund is really $100 per kid per season. But even the 90 would cover kind of the most direct costs per season, so it's $270 a year.
And what about the Booster Club? I know we talked about that. Is there any update on what is going on there? Sorry, Gina, but I'm just asking the questions.
No, I missed the last meeting, but there is discussion with those t-shirt, we don't sell the t-shirts, we give them away, but it's the sponsors that make, everybody on there pays X amount of dollars, so we make decent money off those t-shirts. And we discussed is maybe giving those to athletes, but then the excess that we have is maybe sell those for something a little bit cheaper, like $10 or $5 a shirt. Because we usually just give them away, and like we have a lot left over, and all that kind of money can go towards the athletes. And then there's a couple other things that we discussed is from the Booster Club offsetting some of this cost.
So it's roughly $32,000 a year in additional revenue that we need. So we capture 16,000, we need an additional 32. So I mean, as much as Booster Club, every bit counts.
Oh, yeah, it won't.
It won't come, their whole bank account for many years of fundraising is about that much, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
From like a 5 or 6 year period of fundraising. So, they can, obviously help us with some offsetting, but the bulk of it, we will have to do either through that fundraising platform or.
And there are, like, AA schools are doing it, so it's at
it's a
first
great
I saw it,
idea.
I was like, you don't get anything for donating.
And it
But
causes people to
it's-
buy in and value more what
Yeah.
they're doing.
I think it's a great idea.
On that pop shoot and the 50-50?
I never heard of.
It's almost not enough to
Even
Warrant
talk
doing
about?
it.
It's like
Okay.
maybe 100.
Seriously?
Let's say 200. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
not worth, like, it's fun, but it's not.
No, it wasn't that fun.
Barely pay for an athlete. I was there. That's why I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Laura, did you have fun?
No, I didn't.
I'll just,
So we can do it in June. We could do it as soon as June, but the danger there is just if we have a significant board turnover catching us up to speed, I don't know if we will or won't. But June is when we hire coaches, so it'd be an appropriate time again to revisit June or August. It needs to be one of those two places. My preference would actually be June because then we can use the summer to potentially put some of these things in place. We can hit the ground running in the middle of August when our athletes start for fall season and try and kind of just have this all ready to go.
Was there an idea on the cost of setting up that platform, like what, Three Forks?
They take 20% of the total revenue generated, and that's their cost. There's no setup fee, it's just, that's how they make their money. So hypothetically, if the fee was at $90, the student, I'm not that great at math, would have to raise 16. And then we would take the 90, their fee would be covered, and then the company would take the remainder.
Yeah. I mean, I know my niece and nephew do this in California too, like
Yeah.
for their sports. It's, yeah. I
Yeah,
think
and
it's
that's
really-
one company. There's other companies that offer this, and we're gonna, we'll explore all options. We've just been looking primarily at that one because that's something the schools around us are using.
Levi?
What are schools around us charging for their activity fees?
Up to and over $100 per sport. Yeah.
Yeah,
we're behind. We're
significantly
behind in that.
behind.
But even raising it, the $15, I got several calls. It was like, why did you raise it? But from the numbers, we have to raise it.
And that's why we're hoping to have more transparency. Liz has been helping with this too, just bringing more awareness in the paper, like what our actual costs are. We're not making any money. We're still actively losing money. So, yeah.
All right, any more questions on this topic? Moving on, maybe.
So it's for hiring of paraprofessional Mercedes Meyer. She would
Okay.
be a new para for us in the elementary, so this is an elementary action item, and I would recommend her approval.
Anyone?
I so move.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we need to approve substitute staff.
So the substitutes I would ask you to approve are Haley Briggs and Edie Yergin. Recommend their approval.
I move to approve the substitute staff.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approve advertisement of resolution of intent to impose an increase in levies.
So this is a statutory requirement that by March 31st, we have to notice the public of our current levy projections for all permissive levies. These include adult education, bus depreciation, flexibility fund, transportation tuition, and building reserve. At this time, I'm anticipating 0 increase for the elementary and 0 increase for the high school. Now, we do have statutory authority in August at our budget meeting to adjust if that projection is not accurate. The only one that would potentially be inaccurate would be our tuition fund, and that would be if we have a high needs, special needs student move into our district that requires a one-on-one aid, and we have to hire an additional person for that purpose. Obviously, that's something I cannot foresee. So at this time, I would anticipate that we would not have to levy either the elementary or the high school district any additional. So I would ask that you approve the advertisement to say 0 and be published to the public.
I so move.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, approve 5-8 music field trip to Silverwood.
Okay, so the, Janet Heilig has requested that I ask the board, and again, all out-of-state field trips have to run through the board for approval to take the 5-8, so this is an elementary and middle school music festival at Silverwood where they are adjudicated, and they also get to have a little fun in the process. But it is a field trip out of state. It is a one-day field trip. She has done this in the past. It was a 5-12 field trip. She felt like that was too many kids to take, and so she has amended this to just 5-8 this year.
All right, I need elementary.
Elementary action, please.
Oh, I move to approve the field trip to Silverwood for the 5 through 8 students.
I second.
Any discussion?
When is this? Just curious.
It is May 18th.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approve 2024-2025 school calendar.
Okay, so just before we look, and please do have the calendar document in front of you. It's helpful to take a peek at what it looks like. But a few things that we were up against this year. Madison County Fair is late. It's August 14th through 18th. Christmas Eve and Christmas Day are Tuesday and Wednesday of a week, so they're basically midweek. And New Year's Day falls on a Wednesday also. So our winter break basically has to be longer. There's no way around this. You must have that full 2 weeks off, which we didn't have this year. So because of that, this shoves our entire end date back to June 12th. Okay? And this is again due to fair and where our holidays fall. And there is like no way around this. This is just the nature of the calendar for next year. We would start school on August 20th, which is a Tuesday. Typically, we have teacher training the week before, but due to the amount of people who are affected by fair and the fact we have an FFA program, it is not practical to do that. So we would have a day of teacher training on the 19th, followed by a start of school on August 20th. And you can see where we have Labor Day off and we have MEA off for October like we normally do. And we have the day off, the Thursday of Thanksgiving. And then December, we have the 23rd through the 3rd that we are off, you know, as far as school week goes, right? And then we would resume school on the 6th of January with no day off until the 21st of April, which is where Easter falls next year. It's fairly late.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's late.
So Easter Sunday is the 20th, and then the 21st, we would not have school. So there would be a 4-day weekend, Friday through Monday of that. And then Memorial Day would be off, and the last day of school would be June 12th. That would put graduation on June 8th. So it's really what it is with a 4-day school week, and where Fair falls. Fair being so late this year was I don't know, but
Same. I think it's just the way that the calendar
the third
falls,
week
right?
is, or
It's
something
still-
like that, because August only has like 2 days or something in the first week,
Yeah.
is what was
Yeah, it
explained to me.
does.
So it's the first third, or it's like the
Yeah.
third full week of August is Fair, or something like that,
Second.
or second full week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just pushed it back further. But with the amount of kids, parents, teachers, and our FFA program all participating in Fair, it is kind of a community thing that we have to schedule around.
All right, I need an approval for 2024-25 school calendar.
I so moved to approve.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
One other thing I should mention that we're adding to, I should have mentioned this, is on the 13th of September, which is one of our PLC days. So this is a teacher training day. This is not a day that kids would be coming to school anyways, but we are going to do an open house for parents. This was a request from our union and from PTSA, kind of both together, but it really was spearheaded by PTSA. There's a lot of new families in our community who don't know our teachers. And so we're gonna give people the opportunity to visit with them on that afternoon.
All right, that motion did carry, Alyssa. All right, approved claims and accounts, we'll do elementary first. Anyone?
I approve the claims and accounts for the elementary.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, we'll do high school now.
I move to approve claims and accounts for the high school.
My second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
Motion carries. Now I just need an adjournment.
I moved to adjourn.
Second.
I know there's no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Rico?